Hi guys, welcome to BFS Wargaming. So we're here for another video. We're going to talk about the 2019 April update. Basically going to talk about my thoughts and feelings in it. What I liked, what I didn't like. Overall, I liked it. I always like when there's updates because I want to help. I want the game to be balanced because if the game's balanced, it's more fun to play from all levels, right from the bottom all the way up to competitive. So whether you're having a fun game or if you're having a game on the top table of the LVO, if it's balanced, it makes it more fun. So starting off, I'm going to talk about something that actually wasn't in the update, which is the Inari White Dwarf Index. I've had a little look at it. Looks really good. I like what they've done. Like part of this update, the reason I brought it up is because I think part of this update is to balance the sort of Eldari as a whole, the Eldar as a whole, which we'll go into. But yeah, I really like what they've done. So you can't just chuck Inari tags onto stuff and carry on using them all together. It has to be separate detachments. Psychic powers won't work and things like that. But we'll go into that. But check out White Dwarf anyway. And there's various videos on YouTube that go into far more detail about what's happened with the Inari. So they've got like 17 of their own stratagems. They've got their psychic powers, warlord traits, relics. So yeah, you can check that out. So we'll start off, go into flyers. So this is probably going to affect Eldar as well, more than... It's flyers across the board, but I think because the Eldar flyers, sort of Drukhari and Craftworld flyers are probably the most used because they are strong and they are good. So basically flyers, you can't move block with flyers anymore. So you can't just go and park it in front of something and then you can't go anywhere. Or you have to go around it. So you can actually move within an inch of it, and you go through it as long as you don't end within an inch of it. So you can't end within an inch or underneath the base, obviously, but you can move through the model. So I think that's really nice. I think that's how it should be. You know, it's a flyer. It should be, you know, up in the air, coming to do some sort of strafing bombs and stuff like that and shots. It shouldn't be sort of parked so you can't move through it. And obviously they're meant to be supersonic, a lot of these flyers, because they're the minimum move ones. But it does also... so if you go into hover mode, still the same thing. So going into hover mode won't change. You won't be able to move block once you go into hover mode. Only obviously certain flyers can do that anyway. All flyers now have, or all flyers that have a minimum move characteristic. So I think it exempts like Hive Crones, is it? And Helldrakes. They don't have it, but all the like aircrafts do have an aircraft keyword now. So basically just to be able to separate them and know which ones sort of can move block, can't move block, aren't meant to really. And also flyers can't get prepared positions. So prepared positions where you get the 1-up cover save. So you get 1 better save basically. If you go second, you can use this as stratagem as 2 command points. And flyers won't get that, which, you know, is absolutely fine. They're -1 to hit anyway, naturally. I don't think they need +1 to their save as well, because it's not... The point is GW is saying they're not exactly, you know, digging trenches to prepare their positions, because you can't in a flyer. So the Bolt of Discipline has changed slightly. So it's now a rule, it's no longer beta. But vehicles no longer get it, unless you're a Dreadnought or a Hellbrute. So you're still going to get it with the Centurions, Terminators, Bikers, Dreadnought and Hellbrute. But you don't get it if you're a vehicle. So no longer are like Predators or Land Raiders going to get on their Storm Bolters and stuff like that. Or Flyers, for that matter. But, you know, as a flyer, you should be able to get close enough to use your Hurricane Bolters anyway. But it just stops you being able to use it more. Because they're saying that they brought it in to make Space Marines better, basically, or Primaris, and the wielding their bolters and things like that. It's meant to sort of almost show their prowess with a bolter, not on a vehicle. Which is cool. It's great. Also, with that, the Death Watch actually got an amendment. So if you use special ammo, you can't use the Bolt of Discipline, which I love, because Death Watch, I feel at the moment, are just a little bit. They've seem to have better rules in terms of, obviously, the special ammo. Then they get the chapter tactics. They seem to have like 2 rules, whereas most other Space Marines only get the 1 rule. For instance, Space Wolves get +1 to hit in combat. Like, I feel like they're getting a little bit more. But I like the fact that now you can't just absolutely spam Death Watch loads of shots with the Bolt of Discipline and special ammo, so you could be wounding on 2s with the, I think it's a Hellfire round. It just makes it a little bit more balanced, which I like. Next up is fly keyword has been changed for charging. So you can now charge over enemy models. So you could charge over a screen to get to a juicy target. I really like it. The only thing I would have liked with this is that if you were to charge over an enemy unit, that enemy unit that you're going over would get to overwatch you. Because I feel like if you're flying over a unit that's the front rank, if you like, they're not just going to go, oh, bye. Like, you're going to try and shoot at it. So I just feel like it's an easy rule to put in, because you can see where the measurement goes from there to there. Like, if you go over that unit, they get to overwatch you. So it's not like a good thing. It's, you know, if you're moving over the top of a unit or flying over the top of a unit, you should get to overwatch with that unit, I think. But, you know, maybe they'll bring that in one day. The other thing is, with that, you still can't charge over terrain and buildings and all those sorts of things. So it's stopping you doing the sort of 0-inch charge when you can come in from deep strike and then do a 0-inch charge with like smash captains and stuff like that. So I like the fact that they've put it back in, so you can go over enemy models. It sort of stops guard being quite so good, because you could just stick lines of infantry. So obviously you can still screen with lines of infantry, and it's still going to be harder to get to the tanks, but it's now that little bit easier for units that can fly. And obviously if you're any other sort of flying rule, such as Wraith form for the Necron Wraiths, flip belts for Harlequins, all that sort of thing. I think it's the Interceptors, I believe it's the Interceptors for the Grey Knights that can teleport. So all of them have been updated and now exactly the same rule as the fly keyword. So going on to rules where things get removed from the board and then you can put them back on. So they've clarified this, because there was a bit of contention over what. So they're saying that people were saying, if you remove a unit from the board, let's say with Veil of Darkness, and then put it back at the other end, if you've done My Will Be Done or an aura or an effect on it, that you lose that effect. Well, or a psychic power or whatever it is, because you can do like Dark Matter Crystal is another one for Thousand Suns that can remove a unit and then bring it back. So they've clarified that you do still keep that on certain ones. So stuff like relics and things like that, you still keep them. But if it's like, for instance, Tide of Traitors, the Green Tide stratagem, where you're removing and bringing them a full unit on somewhere else, then you do actually lose any buffs that you had, because it counts as sort of like a new unit. It's almost like reinforcements are coming on. So yeah, they don't get that. But so Veil of Darkness, you'll still get My Will Be Done. You'll still get any augmentations from that. So yeah, anything that's like that, that's a relic where you're almost teleporting rather than sort of resetting up. Yeah, you'll keep them buffs, which is really good for Necrons as well, because really Necrons don't have many auras, and obviously they don't have psychic powers to buff. So everything's sort of done before you would have Veil of Darkness. So it's just nice. It's not huge, it's not game changing, but it's just nice that you still get that. So going on to Tactical Reserves, Beta All, still pretty much the same. You know, you can't deep strike turn 1. you need to deep strike by battle round 3, otherwise you lose the unit. So it's all pretty much as it was. The one thing is that they did clarify, which I wanted to know, was if you set a unit up in the Tomb World for the monolith, can they come in turn 1? And they've clarified that, like, because as written, you'd say they couldn't, but I wasn't sure because they said about when you come out, you act as if it's a transport. It was a bit of a grey area, but they've clarified that you can't come out turn 1. So if you set up on the Tomb World and you can't Eternity Gate them in turn 1, you have to wait till turn 2, which is a shame. I know it's to stop sort of turn 1 deep strike, if you like, but it's not a deep strike because you have to come out within 3 inches of either the Night Scythe or the monolith, and it's sort of almost like quite a big hindrance to Necrons. You can't sort of protect your units because anything you protect is, you might as well just put them in deep strike, although it's a way for us to deep strike. But you know, with monoliths only moving 6 inches and very easy to kill, Night Scythe is easy to kill. Yeah, I don't know, but they did say that if you use the stratagem where there's a stratagem that if your monolith or Night Scythe blows up, you can bring a unit in. You can actually do that still turn 1. So if you kill a Night Scythe turn 1, you can bring that unit in. So that's, at least you can do that. So Imperial Assassins, the operative requisition sanctioned has gone up to 2 command points. They've sort of doing some balancing things and whatnot. So that's gone up to 2 command points, which I'm okay with. Like, it's all right. I think it's still worth using to be able to choose which assassin you want to take, or just take the one assassin for 1 command point in an auxiliary. It's up to you really, but it does give you that choice in a tournament that could be, you know, could be a bit of a game changer. Mental Onslaught has changed slightly. Basically, now if your opponent rolls a 6, it's an automatic, stops the power. So when you go to roll off, obviously you do the leadership thing and then you roll off, and you've got to beat your opponent, because if your opponent draws or beats you, the power stops and you're no longer dealing with mortal wounds. Well, now if your opponent literally cannot win, in terms of, you know, there's such a big difference between leaderships that even if they rolled a 6 and you rolled a 1, you'd still beat them. Well, now you do have to roll off every time, because if they roll a 6, it now automatically stops the power, which I can sort of see why they've done, because you can sort of auto take units off. But you know, it is something that I like, the power for Gene Stealers, because I think it's something, I like the flavour of it. It's nice for them as well, because they haven't necessarily got loads. If you're taking sort of pure Gene Stealer cult, they haven't got loads of sort of anti-tank, if you like. Although, you know, when they get their acolytes or aberrants buffed and stuff like that, they're pretty anti-tankish, but you know what I mean. Orcs have had their mob up rule changed, the stratagem, so now it's just boys. I didn't know this was a problem. Obviously it must have been somewhere for them to do it. There must have been some complaints, or they saw something happen and thought, oh, this is too strong. So they've just stopped that and made it just to boys. Then we have the Castellan Knight, which obviously has, as you probably already know, has gone up 100 points. I think this is just too big. 100 points is massive. You know, if you're taking a pure Knights list, I don't think that the Castellan needs to go up 100 points, because if you're taking a pure Knights list, it's you're probably not going to be good at the mission. You're still going to have some firepower, but you're not going to be good at the mission. So I feel like usually your opponent will be able to outplay you. The reason they've done it is because of the Imperial Guard Castellan soup, like people just taking Castellans in their guard army, or their AdMech army, and I feel like, you know, they've changed the stratagem for the rotate iron shield, so you can only get a maximum of a 4-up invuln, which is huge, and I like it. It's good. I don't think that a toughness 8 knight needs, or should have, not needs, but should have a 3-up invuln. I just think that, especially one with 28 wounds. So I like that they've done that. I just think that maybe they've made 2 nerfs there, in terms of they can't get a 3-up invuln, and now they're 100 points more. I think it might be a bit too much. I personally think that 50 points on a Castellan, and then they should have put guard up, just Imperial Guard up 1 point per guardsman. Because over a guard army and the Castellan going up 50 points, that would have been fine. Because they've done all of the nerfs to the Castellan and none to Astra Militarum, and Astra Militarum, I think, at the moment are really, really strong. Without the knight, they're really, really strong. And this is the one thing that I wanted to see in this update, was I wanted to see the 1 point rise. I wanted them to see that, you know, what they'd done to cultists was fine, but it needed to be balanced with guard. And it's disappointing that they haven't done that. This is probably the biggest disappointment for me out of everything, is that they haven't made that change. I think that it's something that could have been... I think most people are calling for it. I don't really understand why they haven't. So they changed some other things as well. If you know, if I haven't mentioned your army, just go and check on the FAQs. Have a look at your errata, because some of it wasn't in the main bit. Some of it is just in your Codex errata. So have a look at that. Grey Knight. There was one thing like Grey Knights. I know they had the so there was an ability to basically give your character a 2-up invuln. So you could put a Dread Knight and get a Grandmaster Dread Knight armor and give it a 2-up invuln. They've now stopped that, so it's a maximum of a 3-up invuln, which it should be. 2-up invuln is just too much on something like that. It's not really how... Don't get me wrong, it wasn't too bad because it was on Grey Knights, and Grey Knights aren't very strong at the moment. But, you know, I think that they'll... I can't see that they're not going to redo something with Grey Knights. And the other thing they've done to affect the Aeldari soup as well was they changed Doom, Jinx and Reveal. So they can only affect Asuryani. So it's only Craft Worlds that can get the benefit from those psychic powers now, which is it should be. You know, I don't think when they were writing the Drukhari or Craft World Codex that they thought, oh yeah, I know what I want people to do, is take a Supreme Command attachment of Craft World and then mix it with Drukhari, because they wrote Drukhari Codex like they haven't got any psychic ability, and they wrote the Craft World Codex as they have got psychic ability. So, you know, I think that's a good move. It's obviously going to stop a bit more of the Aeldari soup, which I think is good. I'm just, unfortunately, I'm just a bit gutted they haven't done, because I don't think Castellans, although the Castellans have been massively overused, but I feel like people probably foresaw the Castellan nerf and have moved on to like Crusaders and other knights, which is fine, but the problem is still the fact the guard are too cheap. And if you put the guard up, they're still going to take guard because they'll still be the cheapest option to get them command points. It's just their army will be that little bit less effective, which is what it needs to be, because that's, you know, the only way you're going to start balancing and getting other armies up on the top tables and things like that. So, yeah, overall, really, really good update. Really, really like what they've done. Answered a lot of questions. A lot of it's just been clarification on rules and things like that, and I think it's been brilliant. So I hope you heard, I hope you liked listening to me drone on about the update and my views. Yeah, I think it's overall really, really good. Give me your opinions. What do you think? Do you think the guard should stay as they are? Do you think they should have a 1 point increase? Do you think something else is really strong that needs nerfing, that they just completely missed? Or do you think there's something that really needs buffing that they completely missed? Let us know in the comments and we'll have a chat about it. Okay, thanks. Bye.